Welcome back to the channel, guys. It is a fantastic day to dive deep into the twisted, tangled web of Fairmont Crest. Grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready because today we have to talk about a conversation that has been playing on an absolute loop in my head. Let us get right into it. There is a specific scene that just unfolded, and I cannot stop dissecting every single word, every single glance, and every single unspoken truth hidden beneath the surface. Picture the setting, the sterile, tense atmosphere of the hospital room. Bill is lying there in that bed, recovering with a brand new pacemaker, trying desperately to project this aura of untouchable strength. Ted pulls up a chair, looking like a man carrying the weight of a dozen different lifetimes on his shoulders. Two titans of Fairmont Crest, both carrying so much emotional baggage that it is a genuine miracle the hospital floor does not collapse under the weight of it. I can't help but feel like this entire hospital visit was less about checking vitals and more about checking their own guilty consciences. You look at these two men sitting there exchanging pleasantries, and you just know there is a thick, suffocating layer of unspoken tension hanging in the air. It seems that whenever Ted and Bill get together, the ghosts of their pasts are sitting right there in the room with them, pulling up chairs of their own and refusing to leave. There is something deeply unsettling, yet entirely fascinating about watching two men who have masterminded their own romantic disasters try to convince each other that they are the good guys in their respective narratives. I keep coming back to this idea that this hospital room turned into a makeshift confessional, but a confessional where neither sinner actually wants to repent or seek true absolution. They just want validation from someone who is equally as guilty. Ted looking at Bill, Bill looking at Ted, both of them silently agreeing to buy into each other's delusions so they do not have to face their own reflections. What if this entire conversation was just a desperate, calculated attempt to rewrite history? They sit there nodding, pretending that they have everything under control. But if you ask me, they are both drowning in the exact same ocean of regret, desperately clinging to each other to stay afloat. Let us talk about Ted's flashback because honestly, it changes everything about how we view his history with Leslie and the destruction of his marriage to Nicole. Ted openly admits to Bill that the physical cheating was not the actual starting point of his betrayal. The real devastating betrayal started the exact moment he intentionally sought Leslie out to vent about his marriage to Nicole. He walked away from his wife, carrying the heavy, intimate secrets of their struggles, the devastating miscarriages, the heartbreakingly failed in vitro treatments, and handed those sacred vulnerabilities to another woman. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but that is the definition of emotional treason. Ted knows it deep down in his bones. He confesses that the first kiss with Leslie essentially sealed his fate, but the truth might be more complicated than it looks. He was already gone long before their lips ever touched. He used his marital pain as a bridge to Leslie, and I can't help but feel like he is still trying to justify that manipulation to this day, trying to paint himself as a tragic victim of circumstance rather than the architect of his own broken home. And then you have Bill's reaction to this heavy confession. Bill Hamilton, in all his stubborn, oblivious glory, waving his hand dismissively and telling Ted that it was just a kiss. Just a kiss? Guys, something about this doesn't sit right with me. Bill minimizing Ted's betrayal is the most painfully Bill Hamilton thing I have ever witnessed. Because if he can convince Ted that a kiss is no big deal, if he can shrink Ted's infidelity down to a minor indiscretion, then he can convince himself that his own infidelities, his own betrayals with Danny are also just minor bumps in the road of life. It is classic Textbook projection. Bill desperately needs Ted's sins to be small so that his own massive, life ruining sins do not look so terrifying in the harsh light of day. But to his credit, Ted pushes back. Ted actually owns up to the fact that the boundary was crossed way before the physical act. For a brief, fleeting second, you see a flash of genuine self-awareness in Ted, a horrifying realization that he orchestrated his own fall from grace and there is no one else to blame. Ted remembers that specific night so vividly, asking Bill to go to an after party and Bill turning him down. That tiny, seemingly insignificant choice by Bill was the ultimate catalyst. With Bill out of the picture, Ted was left alone with Leslie, and the dangerous gravitational pull between them just took over completely. You have to wonder, what if Bill had said yes? What if Bill had gone to that party and acted as a buffer? Would Ted and Leslie have ever crossed that final unforgivable line, or was it always an inevitable collision course? I might be wrong, but it feels like Ted is almost looking for a scapegoat in that memory, subtly implying that if circumstances had been just slightly different, if Bill had just been a better wingman, he would still be a faithful, devoted husband to Nicole. But we all know that is a lie. He tells himself to sleep at night. The slide into infidelity wasn't an accident. It was a series of deliberate, conscious choices, one after another, leading him right into Leslie's waiting arms. Then comes the memory that absolutely shattered me, the visual that I cannot get out of my head. The moment with the wedding ring. Leslie looking at him in that hotel room, asking if he was really, truly sure about what they were about to do. She gave him an out. She handed him a parachute. And instead of taking it, Ted looked her directly in the eyes, declared that he loved only her, and physically removed his wedding ring. That action, sliding that heavy gold band off his finger, it wasn't just about making love to Leslie. It was a symbolic, ruthless execution of his marriage to Nicole. He didn't just cheat in a moment of weakness. He actively, consciously discarded his sacred vows. I keep replaying that scene in my head, and I can't help but feel like Ted is haunted by the sheer callousness of his younger self. He took off the ring to temporarily erase his guilt, to pretend he was a free man for just one night, but all he did was make the guilt permanent, a stain on his soul that he can never wash off. Fast forward to the present, back in that sterile beeping hospital room, and the irony is so thick you could cut it with a surgical scalpel. Here are these two men, older, supposedly wiser, sitting amidst the smoldering wreckage of their pasts. And what do? They lie. They lie to each other boldly, and more importantly, they lie to themselves. Ted proudly declares that he is deeply in love with Shanice, that he has finally found his future and left the chaos behind. Bill puffs out his chest, despite the mechanical pacemaker literally keeping his heart beating, and insists that his relationship with Haley is absolutely great. It is laughable. It is genuinely, darkly laughable because we, as the audience sitting at home, know the absolute unmitigated chaos that is actually surrounding them on all sides. Let us break down Ted's so-called perfect, peaceful life with Shanice. Yes, he loves her. Yes, he wants to meet her brothers and build a stable, quiet future. But if he is so entirely, completely focused on Shanice, why is he sitting in a hospital room reminiscing about the exact agonizing moment he fell in love with Leslie? Why is Leslie's memory suddenly so vivid, so overpowering that he has to confess it to Bill? There's a chance that Ted is trying to convince himself of his love for Shanice just to drown out the deafening noise of Leslie coming back into his orbit. We know exactly what is happening outside that hospital room. We know Leslie just dumped Marcel because he wasn't Ted. We know she is leaving wine glasses at Ted's door, a desperate plea for a sequel to their toxic romance. We know she is sitting in Eva's house, cuddling the old, torn up teddy bear he gave her years ago. Ted might be looking forward, but his past is aggressively tapping him on the shoulder, and I don't think he has the emotional strength to ignore it for much longer. And then there is Bill. Oh, Bill Hamilton. He sits there looking Ted dead in the eye, telling him that he and Haley are doing great. Great? Your wife is systematically, coldly poisoning you, Bill. She is plotting with Randy Parker to cash in a $10 million life insurance policy while simultaneously starting physical, screaming altercations with the nursing staff and your ex-wife, Danny, right outside your door. And speaking of Danny, Bill is still flirting with disaster, still harboring this toxic, magnetic, undeniable connection to the woman he used to be married to. When Bill tells Ted that everything is fine, it seems that he is not just lying to Ted. He is desperately trying to manifest a reality that simply does not exist. He is completely terrifyingly blind to the fact that his current wife wants him dead and his ex-wife is tearing her own marriage to Andre apart just thinking about their elevator hookup. I keep coming back to this idea that Ted and Bill are acting as psychological mirrors for each other in this scene. They both know they destroyed their first marriages through their own selfish, uncontrollable desires. They both know they caused irreparable, lifelong pain to Nicole and Danny. Yet, instead of holding each other accountable, instead of demanding better from one another, they provide a safe, insulated space for their mutual delusions to thrive. It is a cheaters support group with an attendance of exactly 2. They sit there and weave these intricate, beautiful rationalizations, convincing themselves that their betrayals were just uncontrollable forces of nature rather than calculated, cruel decisions. By validating each other's pathetic excuses, they avoid the terrifying reality of looking in the mirror and seeing the true villains of their own life stories. But here is the universal truth about the past in Fairmont Crest. It absolutely refuses to stay buried. You can pave over it with new relationships. You can build a new shiny life on top of it. But eventually, the ground is going to crack open and swallow you whole. What if this hospital conversation is the ultimate foreshadowing of a massive, unavoidable collision? The women of their pasts are not just fading into the background like obedient ghosts. Leslie is actively regressing, obsessing over her history with Ted, demanding that the universe acknowledge what they once had. Danny is entirely consumed by guilt over her affair with Bill, projecting her frantic anxiety onto Andre, constantly teetering on the verge of a complete psychological breakdown. The past isn't just knocking politely, it is kicking the damn door down off its hinges. Think about the women of their present. Shanice is a good, pure woman, a grieving nurse who has finally cautiously opened her heart to Ted after losing Derek. How is she going to react when she inevitably realizes that Ted's mind is still wandering back to the days he was tearing off his wedding ring in a hotel room for Leslie? And Haley, ruthless, calculating, utterly terrifying. Haley, if Bill keeps playing these nostalgic games, keeps engaging in this chaotic, dangerous dance with Danny, Haley might just speed up whatever lethal timeline she has planned for him. Both Ted and Bill are walking on incredibly thin ice, but they are strutting around like they are standing on solid bedrock. It is only a matter of time before they fall through the cracks into the freezing water below. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I truly believe this seemingly quiet hospital scene is the eerie calm before the absolute storm. It is the writers showing us that no matter how much these men claim to have evolved, no matter how many times they say they have learned their lessons, they are still the exact same flawed, selfish, impulsive individuals who blew up their lives all those years ago. They haven't learned, they haven't truly repented. They have just found new socially acceptable ways to package their old destructive mistakes. The tragic, bitter irony is that they both know it. Deep down, beneath the masculine bravado and the hollow declarations of current happiness, Ted knows he is still inextricably tied to Leslie, and Bill knows he is still chained to Danny. As I watch them try to chit chat their way out of their own dark histories, I can't help but wonder who is going to break first. Will it be Ted finally succumbing to the relentless, desperate, intoxicating pull of Leslie's nostalgia? Or will it be Bill, whose arrogant refusal to see the truth about Haley's murderous intentions and Danny's obsession might actually end up costing him his very life? They can sit in that hospital room and justify their betrayals until they are blue in the face, but the universe has a very funny, very cruel way of demanding payment for past sins. The bill always comes due, my friends. And guys, looking at the board right now, looking at how all these dangerous pieces are moving into place, it seems that neither Ted nor Bill has the currency to pay it. Are we about to watch history repeat itself in the most destructive public way possible? Or is there a chance, however slim, that they finally wake up to their own delusions before they lose absolutely everything all over again? I guess we just have to keep watching, but I am telling you, this is not going to end well for anyone involved.